new topics have come up in research methodology, and this happens to be one of the new topic. You may wonder why, how come it is a new topic? If you look at the PhD thesis of say 30, 40 years back, there used to be objectives of the study followed by methodology of the study. But now, if you open any thesis, after objectives of the study, there will be hypothesis of the study. So there are very few theses which don't have hypothesis. Hypotheses have become an integral part of any research work. So which was not there some 30, 40 years back. So in that way, this hypothesis and testing of hypothesis have become a new, more recent phenomenon. Of course, sometimes out of eagerness, scholars may include hypothesis in the introduction chapter, and they may not do justice, full justice towards the end of the work, whether they have done, whether they have tested the hypothesis, if they have tested the hypothesis, whether they are rejecting the hypothesis, whether they are not rejecting the hypothesis, what is the outcome of that, or they have become more a ornamental piece sometimes. They just keep hypothesis and forget about it. That should not take place. If you are putting your hypothesis, you should do full justice for including hypothesis in your thesis. That is my stand. Then there is a big debate that earlier why the scholars did not include hypothesis in their thesis and why they are now they are including. So this raises a question whether hypotheses are necessary for doing a scientific study or not. So if it was not necessary, why they did not include earlier? Why now they are only including? So hypothesis, whether it is necessary or not. My stand is hypothesis, if they are there, it will help you in your study. In other words, I keep telling hypothesis like a walking stick to an old man. Without walking stick, old man can walk, but if given the walking stick, he can walk very confidently. So hypotheses are not that they must, but if they are there, your work will be in a orderly way. You don't miss the way. So hypothesis, if it is there, they are good, but you have to do a full justice of it. Now, in the eagerness, some people formulate some hypothesis and then say, this is my hypothesis. Then all statement form a hypothesis. No. For suppose somebody says sun rises in the east, sun sets in the west. So what is the debate about it? Why did you put it as hypothesis? After Monday, we get Tuesday. It's by definition. Where is the doubt? So this is a statement, no doubt, that sun rises in the east, sun sets in the west. After Monday, we have Tuesday. All these are all statements, but they are not hypotheses. Hypothesis must be something which there is a debate over it. Everybody will not accept. Suppose somebody says that those who are short are clever persons. The short persons are very clever. Some people may accept. Those who are short, they will feel happy. But those who are tall, they say, no, it's not that only short people are clever, but even tall persons are clever. So what I mean is that hypothesis is a statement which is debatable. Some people agree, some people don't agree. Now we have to see whether this hypothesis has to be accepted or not. So how to accept or reject hypothesis? We should have some data, empirical basis. When there is an empirical basis, only based on the empirical basis, we'll say, yes, based on this data, we are accepting the hypothesis or not accepting the hypothesis, or rejecting the hypothesis or not rejecting the hypothesis. I will just say a sort of introduction. I told hypothesis helps in a research study. Hypothesis is a statement which is debatable, where there is no unanimity on that statement. Some people agree to it, some people don't agree to it. And then based on the data, we have to decide whether that hypothesis must be accepted or not. So how to, based on the data is necessary, but how to test it? Question is how to test it. So there is no unique test because there are different types of hypotheses, and based on the nature of the hypothesis, we have to select the test. So there is a test called T tests are there, F tests are there, chi-square test. Based on the high nature of the hypothesis, we have to select a test, and one among them is chi-square test. And my request is, this is spelled as CHI. People may pronounce it as chi square, but it is not chi square. It is chi-square. It's Kai, like that. Chi. So you spell it, when you are pronouncing it, you pronounce it as chi-square, not chi square. Okay. Now we will go to the PPTs. So we require data for testing hypothesis. Data are basically of two types. One is called qualitative data, another is called quantitative data. What is qualitative data? Qualitative data where we can quantify, but we can categorize like that. Now, within qualitative data, we have two types called nominal data and ordinal data. What is nominal data? We can classify like gender, male, female. Data if there we can. Complexion, white, yellow, brown. These are nominal data. We can only categorize a group of persons or group of units can be categorized into different categories. Like ordinal data, we can order them, we can arrange them. That is called ordinal data. For example, liking. Whether you like sweet or not. There are people who dislike sweet, especially those who are diabetic. They don't like. Somebody says, I am neutral, whether sweet or no sweet, I don't mind. I am indifferent. Somebody says like. So this way of ordering, those who dislike, those who are neutral, those who like. This is called, we have ordered them. Like that, there is a statement whether there must be capital punishment or not. Somebody says, yes, there must be capital punishment. They strongly agree. Some people say, agree, there must be punishment. Some are indifferent whether capital punishment is there or not. Somebody disagree, strongly disagree. So this is called 5-point scale. Starting, if we start from strongly disagree, indifferent, agree, strongly. So this we are able to order them. So this is called, within qualitative data, we have two types, nominal data and ordinal data. In quantitative data, we have again two types called interval data and ratio data. In interval data, the difference between, say there are difference between 10 and 20 is same as difference between 30 and 40. But 40 need not be double of 20. 40 need not be. Somebody who is having Fahrenheit scale, he can know that difference. So ratio is not applicable. So moment 40 is there, 20 is also there. We can't jump to the conclusion 40 is the double of 20. So there is the distance between the 10 and 20 is same as distance between 30 and 40, but 40 is not the double of the thing. Now ratio data where it is applicable, that is the difference between 10 and 20 is same as the difference between 30 and 40, but 40 is also double of 20. The ratio is applicable. So, okay. Now, again, I told tests, there are many tests, but all these tests can be divided into two categories called parametric tests and non-parametric test. What is a parametric test? In parametric test, we assume that that what is the nature of the distribution of the population. Say it may be normal or other things. And here tests are more rigorous and strong conclusion can be drawn. Such tests can be applied when data is either interval data or ratio data. That is, these tests can be applied when we have quantitative data. Parametric tests can be applied when we are using quantitative data. Then what about non-parametric tests? Non-parametric tests makes no assumption of the distribution of the population. Therefore, strong conclusion cannot be drawn. Such tests are applied to data which is qualitative in nature, that is either ordinal or nominal type. Now we come to, chi-square test is a non-parametric test. It is used when the data is only ordinal or qualitative nature, that is nominal or ordinal. And what is the purpose of chi-square test? Chi-square test basically are used. It has three purposes, but the first purpose is to test the relationship between the attributes. Attributes means characters. Attributes means character. For example, taste and gender. I want to know whether taste and gender have any relation thing. Somebody says, oh, ladies like sweet more than gents. That is, gender is one thing, male, female, and taste like or dislike. Now the question is, I have made a statement that the statement is ladies like sweet more than gents. Is it true? Is a question. Somebody may agree. Gents will say, no, gents also like sweets. Somebody says, agreed. So when there is a debate, I want to examine whether taste and genders, are they related or not? These are two attributes, two characteristics. I want to examine whether taste and gender, are they related? Like opinion and gender. Like opinion about capital punishment, I just was referring, whether capital punishment, opinion on capital punishment and gender, are they related? No, more ladies don't like capital punishment. Gents don't mind having capital punishment. Are they related is a thing. So second example which I wanted to say, opinion about some statement and whether they like or not, whether they agree or not, whether anything to do with the gender of a person and to the opinion of the person, are they related? Now, eyesight and residency. There is eyesight, there is a feeling that those people who are near the seashore, they have good eyesight. Those who are in the interior land, they are away from the seashore, their eyesight is, they have poor eyesight. Why? The argument is near the seashore, they get more fishes, and because they eat more fishes, their eyesight will be better. Those who are interior land is another thing. Habit and residence. Habit and residence, people may say, people who stay in rural area, they like tea more. People who stay in urban area like coffee. Whether the habit of tea drinking has it any. So we are taking some examples about where chi-square can be used. I can have a couple of more examples. For example, what type of novels people read. Whether those who are young, what type of novels they read. And those who are middle-aged, what type of novels they read. And those who are aged, what type of novels they read. We can categorize novel as mystery, those which are thrilling, those who are romance, and like that we can have different types of novels. And we also see the age group, those who are young, those who are middle-aged, those who are aged, and we can collect their liking, taste, and thereby we can know whether the type of novels they read and the age has anything to age group, anything to do. Like that we can have about movies. There are different types of movies. Like some are action movies, some are comedy, some are romance, some are adventurous movies. Whether people who go for adventure, do they belong to some age group? People who go to romance films, do they go to particular age group? People go to them. So the cinema viewers, different age groups are there, and do they go to a particular type of movies? So we can try to use chi-square test to know whether the nature of type of movies they visit and age of the person, the age group of the person, have they anything to do with the relation? So these are attributes I was talking of this thing. And also I was talking about chi-square can also be used for testing the composition of the population. Suppose I want to see whether the composition of urban people and rural people, is it more or less? So we have social categories like forward caste, backward caste, SC, ST. Again, urban area and rural area. Whether this composition of population by social category, is it same in both rural area and urban area? So we can have test. Then we can have compositions to study composition, that whether the food habits, whether it changes with the social category. What composition of food they have, composition of different categories, whether it is same or different. One can check this. Then this is composition. Third is we have a different types of distribution. Height of the people are distributed, weight of the people are distributed in fashion. All people don't have same height. Some are short, some are tall, some are medium. There is a distribution. Similarly, weight, some are heavyweight, some moderate, some lightweight. What is the distribution? So whether this distribute, we take generally in statistics, they say they're normally distributed. Heights are normally distributed. Weights of persons are normally distributed. Whether this distribution is really normally distributed or not, we can check with the help of some sample data. So basically, chi-square test can be used for three purposes. One is testing the relationship between the attributes. Second is to know whether the composition is same between among different populations. Third is can see whether distribution is according to some theoretical distribution. Observed distribution is one thing, and theoretical distribution, I think, whether they are matching or not. And then two. So these are the chi-square test is a very powerful test and very frequently used when data cannot be quantified, but data can only be when data is qualitative in nature. So what are the steps? Let us see what are the steps involved in chi-square test. Especially now we want to say whether the two attributes are related or not. Say, for example, gender and taste, whether they are related or not. What are the two attributes we are taking? Gender and taste. Are they related? So we have, as yesterday professor must have dealt with, so I can be a bit fast. We have we start with first step is we have to set up null and alternate hypothesis. Null hypothesis denoted by H0. H0 says that these two attributes are independent. There is no relationship. So null hypothesis says there is no relationship. Therefore, it is called null hypothesis. What are the two attributes we are trying to study? Gender and taste. So gender and taste are not related to one another. They are independent of one another. There is no relationship. Therefore, it is called null hypothesis. Alternative hypothesis, which we denoted by H1, they say the two attributes are not independent. That is, they are dependent on one another. They are related. Which depends upon which is a secondary, but there is a relationship. Okay. That is the first step in any test of hypothesis. We have to set up null and alternate hypothesis. Null hypothesis always says no relationship. They are not related. So alternatively, they are related. Second step is we have to choose the level of significance of the test. What level of significance of the test in simple words is how reliable you want the test to be. How reliable. So whenever we are conducting any test, we generally commit two types of errors, which is called type 1 error and type 2 error. And we fix maximum limit for type 1 error. Say alpha, it should not exceed 5%. And then try to minimize type 2 error. So generally we commit, in simple words, we are likely to commit in any test two types of error, type 1 error and type 2 error. So we cannot minimize both the types of errors simultaneously. We fix a upper limit for one type of error and then try to minimize the other type of error. Okay. Then third step is selection of test statistic. Here in this case, we are using chi-square statistic. What is test statistic in simple words? It is a measuring rod. In simple word, test statistic is called measuring rod. Why do you require, like to measure height, we require one measuring rod. To weight, we require another measuring rod, kgs. To height, we may use centimeters or inches. Weight can be in kgs or pounds, like that. For different parameters, we use different measuring rod. No, so test statistic for different types of test, we require different measuring rod. And in this type of test, which is about attributes, we require what is called chi-square statistic. We require chi-square. What is chi-square statistic? I'll let you know. Now I am only making a list of the steps for conducting a chi-square test. Third step in this chi-square test is selection of chi-square statistic. That is, the test statistic is chi-square statistic. Fourth step is we have to compute chi-square statistic based on a sample data. So we have to take a sample data, and using that sample data, we have to compute chi-square. This is called fourth step. Then fifth step will be we have to decide. That is called decision rule. Whether we should reject the null hypothesis or not to reject. Reject or not to reject. So when will we reject? We will reject the null hypothesis if computed value is greater than the table value. What is this table value? There is a table called chi-square table. Using that, with the help of chi-square table and the computed value, compare them. If the computed value is more than the table value, we reject the null hypothesis. Otherwise, we don't reject. Okay, these are the steps. Now, we have a contingency table. This example is different from what I was referring. This is a research methodology course. I want to see, I am categorizing the participant into two categories, local and non-local. And other attribute is economics and others. So here in this example, I am categorizing the participant into with two attributes. One is whether they are local or non-local. Other attribute of the participant I am looking which discipline. Discipline, economics or others. So I want to examine whether the discipline of the participant and their residence are related or not. So I am not measuring them, only categorizing. I am categorizing the participants of the research methodology course into two categories. One, local and non-local. This is one way of categorizing. Other way of categorizing whether they belong to economics or not. So now it's like 2 by 2 we have contingency table, and there are 4 cells here. The first cell I have written as O11. That is observation, which is in the first row, first column. That is how many are local and economics. The second is in the same first row, we write 1, 2. That is the address of the cell. Observed value is 012. That is, so here, that is how many local persons are belonging to other than economics. So the cell address is 1 to first row, second column, and observed value we write it as 012. R1 is the total of first row. Then we come to second row. Here we are looking at to the discipline of the non-local persons. 021 refers to the number of non-local belonging to economics from economic discipline, and 022 is number of non-local belonging to other discipline other than economics. And R2 is called the total of the second row. Now, column totals, C1 is the column of the first column, C2 is the total of the second column, and then we have GT, that is called grand total. Grand total is either sum of row totals or column totals put together. They should always add up to. That figure is called grand total. That figure is called grand total. This is a contingency table. This is a contingency. Now, I have taken a data of participants. 37 participants are there in a research methodology course. And some of them belong to economics, some of them belong to others, and some of them are local, some of them are non-local. The observed value I have seen. Let us see what is the result, sample result is out of these 37 participants. In all, 17 are local. Out of 37 participants, 17 are local. And among local candidates, that is, I am referring to row 1. So the total row 1, total of first row is 17. Among the 17 local participants, 12 belong to economics, 5 belongs to other than economics. So you can see that observed value in the first row, 12, what does it indicate? 12 among the 17 local candidates, 12 belong to economics, and remaining 5 belong to other than economics. Now we come to second row. The second row total is 20. So there are 20 non-local participants in this research methodology. 20 are participants are non-local. Out of them 20, 5 belong to economics, and the remaining 15 belong to other than economics. So you can see in the second row, 5. In the first row, first column, that is 5, is called, that is non-local who belong to economics. There are 5. And non-locals who belong to other than economics are 15 in number. So put together, they are 20. So these are observed figures. Now, in the bracket below, you can see there is what is called, some figures we have kept in bracket. They are called expected frequencies. They are called expected. Now you may ask how to calculate these expected frequency. How to calculate expected frequency? There is a formula which is given below. That is, expected frequency of any cell is given by row total into column total by grand total. Row total into column total, corresponding row, corresponding column we have to take, and we have to divide by grand total. So first observe in the first cell, first row, first column, how I have put 7.8. You may wonder how I got 7.8. So what is the row total? Row total is 17. Column total is also 17. Oh, in this accidentally, it is coincident. Don't worry, row total is 17. First row total is 17 and column total is also 17. So let me go to the board and see, and grand total is 37. So O11 is equal to R1 into C1 divided by grand total. This is equal to 17 into 17 divided by 37. Okay. So this is how we have to work out, and you get 7.8 also. O12. How to get O12? R1 into C2, because it belongs to second column. R1, this observation belongs to first row and second column. So how to calculate? To calculate R1 into C2 divided by the grand total. R1 is again 17 into column total. What is the column total of the 20? 20 is the column total, second column total, divided by grand total, that is 37. So this is how we have to work out. Like again, how to work out O21? O21 is equal to second row total into first column divided by the grand total. So second row total, how much is the second row total? So again, it is 20 accidentally. Okay. This is a cooked up example. So second row total is 20. First column total is 17 divided by 37. Like that, we have to compute. This is how, and we got the figures. We have put that. So this is the way of computing expected frequency. This way of computing expected frequency. Now next step is we have to compute chi-square statistic. We have to compute chi-square statistic. So we have to prepare a table. In this table, first observation, first row, first column observation is 12, and like that we have put first row, second observation is 5. First row, second column observation is, that is O12 is 5. O21 is also 5. O22 is 50. O22 is 50. So we have put that. So we have put first column is O under observed frequency. We have put 12, 5, 5, 50. Now adjust next column, we have put the expected frequency, which we have worked out 7.80 corresponding. So like that, we have put the expected frequencies. Next column is O minus C, observed frequency minus expected frequency. Like that is 12 minus 7.80. That is the difference is 4.2. And the difference is 4.2. Yeah. Like that, we have to work out the difference. Some are 0.42 minus 4.2, like that we have got. And because this is a cooked up example, you may feel it's not necessary that every time O minus E must be 4.2 only. No, in this example, it is a symmetry type is there, so you have got same figure, but generally it will not be the same. It will be different for different observations. So anyhow, we have to find O minus C, and then we have to square this. So 4.2 whole square, like that. We have to square that. So all the things we have squared. Next column will be O minus C whole square divided by E. So that we have to slightly, sorry. So O minus C whole square by, I hope it is visible. So we have O minus C is that thing, and now O minus C whole square by E is the last column, and then that is we have to total it. We have to total it. So this is how chi-square statistics is computed. First we have observed values, then we have to find expected frequencies, then take the difference, square the difference, then after squaring the difference, divide them by E, that is expected frequency, and then total it. That is called computed chi-square statistics. This is how we find the computed chi-square statistics. Then before taking a decision rule, we have to find out what is called degrees of freedom. Here the degrees of freedom is given by the formula R minus 1, that is number of rows minus 1, into C minus 1, that is column minus number of columns minus 1. R is number of rows, C is the number of columns. The degrees of freedom is given by R minus 1 into C minus 1. Here it works out to 2 minus 1 in again into 2 minus 1. So that is 1 into 1. So 1 into 1 is 1. So degrees of freedom is 1. So now we have to find out table value. We have to find out the table value. So we'll have a look at the table value. Table, chi-square table is represented to you. Now you have a chi-square table on your screen. Here in the first column, you have degrees of freedom, like 1, 2, 3, like that. That is called degrees of freedom. And in the column heading will be the level of significance of the alpha. So we have, generally we take either 0.05 as alpha or 0.01. Okay. Okay. So alpha, either we generally take 0.05, that is 5% level of significance of the test, or 0.01. So it is left to user whether that is the limit or upper limit that we are fixing for type 1 error. And now table value, we have to say degrees of freedom is 1 in our case, 2 minus 1 into 2 minus 1, that is 1 into 1. For 1 degree of freedom, that is we have to go to the first row, and alpha equal to 0.05, we have 3.84. So that is the table value. Now one may wonder, how does the chi-square distribution looks like? What is the shape of chi-square distribution? There is a figure on the top side. So chi-square has it's not symmetric. Normal distribution is like a bell shape. It is symmetric, and here chi-square takes only positive values. So it starts from 0 and soon rises to the peak and slowly declines. So it takes very short time in going up to the peak. After reaching the peak, it slowly declines. So the two sides are not symmetric. Chi-square is not a symmetric distribution. Chi-square is not a symmetric distribution. This I wanted to show you, that you should have an idea that there is something called, there is a chi-square table and how chi-square distribution looks like. But many people think it is like, it must be like same like normal distribution or T distribution. Chi-square has a slightly different appearance because what is the relationship between the normal distribution and chi-square? If x is normally distributed, x square has a chi-square distribution. So that is a grand thing. So if x is standard normal distribution, x square will have a chi-square distribution because x square takes only positive values. X, if it is normal, it can take both positive normal distribution. X can take both positive and negative values. But here, because we have squared the x's, x square will be only take positive values. So this distribution starts from 0, 0, and it goes on increasing at rapid pace in the beginning. After reaching a peak, it slowly starts declining. So it's not a symmetric distribution. That means if you look at either side of the peak, they are not similar. So it's not a symmetric distribution, and it is only in the positive quadrant. It cannot go to take negative value. So this is just I wanted to uh, impress upon you that chi-square in our distribution not a symmetric distribution, and it takes only positive values. There is a chi-square table where we have a degrees of freedom given in the first column, and based on that correspondingly we have to go depending upon the level of alpha we select. Here we suppose we select 5% of significance. Alpha value is 3.84. So for first 1 degrees of freedom, alpha value under 0.05 is 3.84. So that is the table value. So now we go back to our example. So now we are at the decision rule. Now we have to take the final decision whether to reject the hypothesis or not to reject the lost. Yeah, decision whether to reject or not to reject. So degrees of freedom we have calculated. Table value also we have got 3.84, but our computed value is 7.73. So the computed value is greater than table value. The computed value is 7.73, which happens to be greater than the table value. Table value is only 3.84. Computed value is 7.73. Therefore, we reject. Therefore, we reject H0. What was the H0? These two attributes are independent. These two attributes, there is no relationship between the two attributes, no relationship. That hypothesis is being rejected based on the data. Based on the data, we are rejecting the null hypothesis, which says that there is no relationship between the residence and the discipline of the participant. The residence of the participant and discipline of the participant, we thought they are not related, but our data says there is a relationship. And if you observe, most of the local people belong to economics, and whereas non-local people, most of them belong to other than economics. It may be reason may be different. We have to probe further why most of the local people are economics. Why local people? Why disciplines among the local? Why other discipline people did not participate into the research methodology? Or why, one may ask, why non-locals, economics candidates who are staying outside, why they did not participate in this research program is a question which have to be further examined. But what we can see is the residence and the discipline of the participants are, we thought they are not related, but it indicates that there seems to be some relationship between the residence of the participant and the discipline to which they belong to. And it appears most of the local people belong to economics, most of the non-local people belong to other than economic discipline. This one, suppose interested, can have a look and see why this nature has come, why it is.